Park Soroi is probably the student that his teacher hates the most. Since he knows some of his students are skipping the classes, the teacher has them hold a bucket full of water above their heads. Even though Park is a very disciplined student, he doesn't like how his teacher keeps scolding him and his friends. At some point, he lets the bucket spin in between his hands and pours all the water on himself. That makes the teacher even more angry. The thing is, this teacher must be hating his job overall because everything annoys him, even the little bit of water that touches his leg. Soon, Park is transferred in another school. Because his father has been transferred in a new position, his father works at a large company of Korea, the Jenga Group, and he wants to keep his prestigious position no matter what. In his new school, the teacher has Park introduce himself to his new classmates. After some brief introductions, Park takes a sit next to a thin girl. The two of them do not speak much with each other, but then a blonde guy walks in the class and gains everybody's attention. He is the star of the school to a certain extent, not because everybody likes him, but mostly because he is filthy rich and everybody treats him like he is a fragile flower. He starts bullying a boy with glasses named Lee, and nobody moves a finger. This must have been a normal routine for them. The bully, Gun, is the son of Chang, the president of the Jenga Group. In other words, the son of the big bad boss. Gun steals the boy's meal, which is a carton of milk, and pours it on the boy's head. The students have various reactions to that, but nobody dares to do something. Park gets up with the intention of doing something about it, but the girl sitting next to him, Suah, stops him. She knows that he is going to put himself in trouble if he goes against Gun. While the two of them talk, the bullying escalates, and Gun now takes some pictures of the poor boy with the glasses. There is no stopping to this guy humiliating the poor nerd. He even grabs the nerd by his hair and takes more pictures of him. He basically treats him like he is a toy to play and have fun with. Park walks near them and warns Gun to let the nerd alone. However, Gun does not listen to him. Mostly, he wonders what the new guy wants. While the two of them have some words, there is no resolution to the situation. Eventually, the teacher walks in, but he pretends like nothing is happening, even though Gun is still holding the nerd by his hair like he is a rag doll. That shows the power that Gun's family possesses. The teacher plainly tells them to quit messing around and take their seats. Neither Gun nor Park listen to the teacher. Instead, they continue with their confrontation. Realizing that this guy is never going to behave, Park throws a right hook and it lands perfectly on Gun's jaw. The blonde guy is knocked down, and that causes everybody to watch in awe. Nobody has ever gone against Gun, not even the teachers. In the aftermath of that punch, the two boys are taken to the principal's office. Gun is treated like a king, while Park is being beat up with a stick by his teacher. Soon, the fathers of the two boys are called, and they exchange words. Gun's father, Chang, says there is no reason why the school should expel Park. Park's father has been working for his company for way too long, and they can find a middle solution. He just wants Park to apologize and everything will return back to normal. On the other hand, Park has been taught by his father to stand for what he believes in. Park's father supports him, but that results in him losing his job. Since Chang does not want him to work for the company anymore, father and son go to a pub to have a drink, and they come up with a brilliant idea. Why don't they just open their own pub? They both like the potential of that idea. They soon start working on it. However, something unexpected happens. Park's father will not be able to carry on with his plan. While he rides his bike, he is hit by a car and he dies. No matter how hard he tries to stay alive. The police has a talk with Park. They show him the man responsible for the accident. They inform him that the man wants to pay Park a certain amount of money in order to keep this case out of the court. Park is devastated to even hear that and drops the file on the ground. Suah is right next to him. She picks up some pictures in order to take a closer look. She realizes that the car in the picture belongs to Gun. She remembers that Gun was bragging around school a few days ago. He had bought a new car and told Sue that it was a limited edition. Parks asks her if she is certain about that, and she is. She remembers it pretty clearly. Obviously, Gun or his father paid somebody to take the blame for the incident. Angry, Park gets up and walks away with the sole intention of finding Gun. Suah runs behind him, but she is not able to stop him or change his mind. Park soon arrives at the hospital and finds Gun just outside. He starts beating him up until he throws him on the ground. After giving him some more punches, he picks up a rock from the nearby pavement and is about to end the blonde brat. But in the last minute, the police appears and they arrest Park, taking him behind bars real soon. Chang visits Park one day. He starts mumbling about how he knew his father for the last 20 years. and how bad he feels that Park will probably end up in prison for some time. He pretends to be willing to help Park, but there is something he wants in exchange. He wants Park to kneel to the floor and ask forgiveness for beating Gun up. Park believes Gun deserved what he got. He makes it clear that he will never kneel in front of anyone. Soon, Park is taken in trial. The detective that has been assigned to his case has figured out that Gun was the one to kill Park's father, but the police chief has told him to keep his mouth shut. As it seems, Chine has friends everywhere. He has bribed the police chief. Park is soon taken to his new cell. His cellmates immediately start messing with him because he is so young. They want him to kneel in front of them. Park wonders why everybody wants to make him kneel. One of his cellmates hits his leg, but instead of being scared, Park starts laughing frantically. That makes the men kind of angry, and they start beating him up. The next day, Park has a visit. His visitor is none other than Sue. She tells him some news, that she is going to attend university, but there is something more. Chine has offered to pay for her studies without asking anything in return. That is because Sue was the one to call the police that night, when Park was about to kill Gun. 3 years later, Park is released from prison. He is dedicated to become better than Chine, whose company leads the snacking and food industry. He is lucky enough to receive an invitation from his old friend Sue. In the city she is living, people celebrate the American Halloween, and that is something Park has to experience. When he gets there, he wanders around the streets until Sue sees him. When the girl reveals her face, it becomes apparent why we said he was lucky to be invited. Sue has changed a lot. After introducing him to some of her friends, Sue and Park sit down to catch up. Both of them have something new to tell each other. On one hand, Sue will start working for the Jenga group after she finishes her studies. On the other hand, Park will start his own restaurant. In a sense, they are going to be competitors. Park clarifies that he has not many career choices, but opening something like a restaurant was also his father's dream. He always wanted to have his own business, so opening a store will be a form of tribute to his father's soul. A few years after that meeting, Sue has started working for the Jenga group. She is about to leave for a meeting with a store manager at one of Jenga's pubs downtown, but she is surprised to see that Park is opening his own pub right next to it. The guy has been right about his plans. He is finally opening his own restaurant. The two of them stare endlessly at each other, but Park still does not get a real date with her. In the meantime, a group of female bullies are picking on a girl. The leader of the bully group does not like the other girl's meal, and she messes up with her. She calls the girl an idiot, and even proclaims that she will write that word on her forehead so everybody knows it. This bully girl is the daughter of a cop and seems to be having an easy time at school, just like Gun had in the past. While she picks up a pen to write the bad word on the girl's face, another girl named Jo wakes up and grabs her phone. In reality, she has been just pretending she is asleep in order to get the chance to record everything. Indeed, she records them and uploads the recording on social media. The video goes viral on the web and countless of people comment on it. Soon, Jo becomes a social media sensation and acquires lots of followers. One night, Jo is confronted by the bully girl's mother, who starts threatening her. Like all the egomaniacs out there, she starts asking Jo if she knows who she is. At some point, the woman slaps Jo, but Jo's friend Song has been recording the whole scene. Now, they have the woman on video as well. That infuriates the woman even more. She goes for a second slap, but at that point, Park appears and grabs her hand. After exchanging some more insults, Jo finds an opportunity to slap the woman. She and Song just walk away to grab a taxi, but Park runs after her and tells her what she did was not right. In response, Jo clarifies that she is not one of those people who will respect others just because they are older. Jo is also scolded at school the next day, but she does not care much about it. Later, she meets with Song, and they go for a ride with his bike. On the way, a little kid loses his ball and runs across to grab it. To avoid hitting the boy, Song hits the brake and the bike almost trips over. That causes Jo to fly into the air. Meanwhile, Park has been at that same spot. He is dressed like a teddy bear and hands leaflets to people in order to advertise his pub. He sees a girl flying in the air. He runs to her aid. He grabs her and they fall down. When the girl gets up, Park realizes that she is the girl he accidentally met yesterday. While the two of them have some chit-chat, Park passes out. He is transferred to the hospital. It's not like he was hurt, but he rather was super tired. Park wakes up in the hospital, and Song thanks him for helping his friend. After some conversation, Park tells them that if they want to thank him, they should visit his pub. However, the young kids go out clubbing. Then, they return into town and visit a pub, not Park's pub. In fact, the pub they have visited is one of those that belong to the Jenga group. However, the law states underage people are not allowed in these pubs. Sue happens to be there that night, and she checks their IDs, telling them to return once they graduate high school. Then, the kids go to Park's pub and they are the only visitors. While Park leaves to take a look around at how the other pubs are doing, he tells his employee to check their IDs. The employee does check their IDs, but he also thinks about not having enough clients, so he allows them to stay. While Park wanders around the street, he meets with Sue and they start discussing business. Park knows lots of stuff, but somehow anything he does is not enough. His pub is not performing well. Once they reach his store, Sue realizes that the kids she kicked out of her pub are now sitting in Park's pub. She understands that Park has no idea those kids are underage. When Park gets in his store, Sue calls the police to snitch on him. What kind of a friend is that? Inside the pub, a friend of Joe's and Song's gets drunk and starts making a scene by insulting Park's employee. He wants to fight, but Park's jump in the middle and pulls him to a spot where the camera can see him. The young man punches him anyway, but then Park's employee jumps in the middle. He is angry and beats the young man up. Park tries to stop him, but the employee stuns him with a judo toss. Then he takes some hot soup and pours it on the young man's leg. The police busts in. They take everybody down to the station. While they try to figure out a solution for that mess, Gun appears out of nowhere to pick up his little brother, Song. The thing is, he had no idea he had a brother until he was called by his father's lawyer. Of course, he acts like he owns the place. He even says that Park is a friend of his, so the policeman has to help him. The policeman will help them gladly, but Park interrupts him and comments that he does not need or want any kind of favors. He claims policemen and women need to be the fairest people in a society. Park runs outside. Joe runs after him so they can have a talk. However, Park is not in the mood and turns around to walk away. But then, Gun runs after him and tries to play mind games with him. Gun taunts him to beat him up again, because he knows Park hates him and blames his father's death on him. Park remains calm and turns the tables on Gun by saying that the day he was imprisoned, he made a 15-year plan that also involves his assassination, so he has to be ready about that because the day will come sooner or later. After the events in the police station, a flashback shows the backstory of Park and his employee, Choi. The two of them had met in prison when they served time together. 2 years later, Joe has become an adult. She is spending some time outside with some people she knows. She does not actually like them, but she just wanted to be outside and have a drink. A guy from the group likes her and tries to flirt with her, but Joe is not interested and walks away. The man follows her and insists they spend some more time together, but Joe is not going to change her mind. She takes some money out of her purse and throws it at him, saying he can use that to hire a woman and have some fun tonight. The guy feels insulted. He tries to keep her from leaving, but Joe smacks him on the ground and kicks him. The problem is, the dude runs after her and chases her. Joe bursts into a store, and she goes to the men's toilets. As if it was a miracle, guess who she finds there? Of course, Park. The guy comes after her. The next moments are a bit awkward among them while Park is trying to pee. Soon, Park is done and washes his hand, also realizing that Joe might be in trouble. Although he soon understands there is no doubt about it, he asks her if he wants him to get involved. In the past, Park kept that woman from slapping Joe, but Joe was ungrateful. This time Joe asks for his help. Park tries to take her away. The guy grabs his hand, but Park pulls him and bumps him on the wall. The dude gets up and tries to punch Park, but the latter has better technique and knocks him down. In the meantime, Chang is having a conversation with Sue. He says he is considering her as his successor for the Jenga group. His son is pretty much useless. He knows that if he gives him the company, he will not do a good job with it. Back with Park and Joe, they have a drink together, but they have probably had too much. After Joe gives Park some feedback on his pub, the latter gets up with the intention of walking away, but he just collapses on the ground. Joe likes seeing him calm and beautiful, and approaches him in order to kiss him. The next night, Joe runs to Park's pub. She has been having feelings about him. She tells him she wants to work in his pub. She will help him take his store to the next level. Apart from her, Song also wants to work for Park, because he is the kindest person he has ever met. He feels bad for what happened in the past. He wants to apply to work for Park as a part-time employee. With all of that going on, the team now has more members. Choi feels a bit awkward, but Joe tries to make him understand that they really need her. To demonstrate that, he has Choi serve some food, and she starts indicating some mistakes he is making. For starters, he is serving the soup while having his finger in the inner part of the bowl. The bowl needs to be held only from its outer sides. Then Jo pulls her phone out to take a picture, but realizes that the lights are not good, so they need to be changed. Lastly, Jo says they need to deal with the fact that the food is not good. Next, Jo starts a social media campaign since she has lots of followers, and sets up an event in Park's store. That night, there are a lot of people entering the pub as well as waiting in a line outside. Suwa sees that, and feels kind of weird. In the meantime, Song remembers how poorly he was treated by his family. He was born out of marriage and nobody really wanted him. After the incident in Park's pub and the police station, he told Chang that he wants to leave the house because nobody has a use for him there. Chang kind of confirms that. He makes it clear that he will not get sad if Song leaves. Therefore, Song rents a house on his own, and then proceeds to meet Park and ask for a job. In the meantime, Chang's people are having a meeting. They outline their future plans about the company. Maybe they even look forward to Chang stepping down, so they can be the ones in control. You can't trust anybody nowadays. As for Chang himself, he is walking around the pubs with Sue. He says that he has found a girl that he will try to get his son married to, but wonders if he will even be able to hold that marriage. His son is still immature and can't do anything right. It would be good for his son if Sue wanted to be with him, but he knows that she does not like him, let alone love him. When they walk outside Park's store, he sees that the young man is doing better in business. Then, he wonders if Sue will stay forever on his side and with the company, because he knows that she is a friend to Park as well. He hopes that will not be a problem for them. Later, Park's pub has yet another successful night with plenty of income, but Jo has been watching the cook, Hyan, and realizes that he has no real skills in the kitchen. When the pub is closed, she brings the matter to Park and presses him to do something about it. The bad food will hurt the pub. Park brings Hyan for a talk. He tells him that his lack of cooking skill is the main problem that the store is facing right now. He gives Hyan the monthly salary. Everybody is sad because they think Park is firing him. However, Park explains that this monthly salary is actually double the money. He wants Hyan to stay, but if the latter wants that as well, he will have to work twice as hard and put double the effort into becoming a good cook. At the same time, Jo's old rivals from the school see her on social media having a good time, and they get really jealous. The next day, they find her and corner her. Now, something very important is revealed. The night when the police entered Park's pub, it was not Sue who called them. In reality, Sue put her phone back in without ever calling the police. But these girls appeared, and they saw Jo in the pub. They wanted to harm her, so they call the police. Jo goes crazy. She slaps the leader of their group. Then she taunts her by saying that she slapped her mother in the same way in the past. The other girl attacks her, but Jo also slaps her and cocks her down. Crazy slapping skills. As for the third girl, it seems she does not want to participate in the slapping contest. She just takes a few steps backwards. Finally, Jo grabs the leader of the gang again and teaches her a good lesson by beating her up pretty good. After that, Jo continues her promotional efforts. She speaks with a director from a TV show. The pub will be featured in the show, and that may lead them to gaining some popularity. When Park arrives at the TV station, he realizes that Gun is the producer of the show. The two of them can't find common ground, so Park just leaves. Gun follows after him and starts talking about Sue. The two of them love the same woman, but he believes that Sue would never be with Park. She probably only talks to him because she feels bad for him. Later that night, Jo walks down the road with Park, and they see Sue coming their way. Things are a bit awkward, because Sue has been avoiding Park's phone calls and messages, so they just keep going on their separate ways. However, Jo now reveals something that Park had no idea about. Some of her rivals had called the police that night at the pub, not Sue, like they believed till now. Park runs away to find Sue. This man is crazy about her. He probably feels relieved he can love her without feeling any guilt. He finds her at the bus station waiting for the bus. He knows she was not the one to call the police, and he wants them to be good with each other again. However, Sue has lost herself. She has no idea how she can juggle being romantically involved with Park while she works at the Jenga group. The bus arrives, and Sue steps in. Park starts running after the bus. He tells her that he will destroy Jenga if that is what it takes for them to be together. Then he calls an old friend of his, who is none other than Lee, the boy who was being bullied by Gun at school. As it seems, Park has made some money by investing in some stocks. On top of that, he is a major shareholder at the Jenga group. In the past, Gun had a fight with one of his employees, and that led to the company have a bad reputation, which lowered the stock's price. At that time, Park bought lots of stocks and his money grew while the stock grew. At the same time, the pub is having more and more clients, and Joe wants to expand the team. A guy named Tony comes for an interview. He seems like an American, but he speaks Korean pretty well, saying that his father is Korean, and he has been living in the country for the past 1 year. Joe believes this guy will be good with the English language, so she hires him in order to communicate with foreign customers. In Jenga, President Chang is informed that there was some movement yesterday, and somebody bought more shares of the company. In fact, the owner of these shares has had other shares in the past as well, so he has now become a noticeable shareholder. When the president hears this guy is none other than Park, he starts laughing frantically. He says that he is hungry. Of course, that is a hint that he is going to visit Park in the pub. When he walks in the pub, everybody is surprised to see him. This is going to be something like a game of chess between Chang and Park. The rich president wants his Park's plan, but the latter responds that he only believed in Jenga's potential as a company. That is why he bought the shares. Even though Gun defamed the company with his actions for a little while, he knew that Jenga would recover and keep up the good work. Of course, Chang does not believe him. Soon, he gets up to leave and warns Park about the future. Chang is a man that nobody would like to have as an enemy. Despite the threats, Park keeps his cool. He greets the chairman respectfully. Meanwhile, the guy who was being bullied in high school, Lee, has become a fund manager. A flashback takes us back in time and shows us how he went to visit Park in prison. He wanted to thank him for standing up for him and told him that he was studying business administration. Park makes him intentions known, saying that he is going to destroy the Jenga group in the future. He will open his own restaurant and be much better than Jenga. When Lee hears all of that, he offers to help Park, and the two of them end up fist bumping behind the prison glass. Back in the present day, the two of them are having a drink. They are discussing about the Jenga shares. Lee believes that their move last night was a bit irrational. Maybe they should have waited for another year, so Park's money accumulate a bit more interest, and then buy more shares. By the way, it becomes also known that Park had received some insurance money after his father's death, and that was the money that he invested in Jenga. On top of that, they have to think of something else as well. Lee has also helped Miss Kong make some money. They can reach out to her in order to infiltrate the Jenga group. Miss Kong is an ambitious woman. She might be interested in hearing them out. When they meet with her, Kong immediately tells them that she cares about the Jenga group, so she would never do anything against the company. Well, Park does not want her to go against the company, but rather run for president and take control of the company. He reveals that he owns 1% of the company, which is not much, but is not a little on the other hand. When the next shareholder meeting happens, he will support Miss Kong as the next president of the company. Everybody knows that Gun is useless, and he will mess everything up. The next day, two foreigners come to the pub to grab a drink. Everybody expects Tony to communicate with them. However, it is now revealed that Tony can't speak English. In the meantime, in Chang's house, he is playing a board game with Miss Kong. He tells her how much he trusts her, and how touched he is by the fact that she cares about the company. However, when the game is finished and Miss Kong leaves, Chang's security guy brings him some pictures, and Chang sees that she has been meeting with Park and Lee. Later, Park pays a visit to the detective's house. The two of them have a heartfelt talk. Park knows that his daughter wants to be in the police, just like her father. Park comments that the girl seems quite brave, in contrast to the detective. The man says that he is not a detective anymore, and falls to his knees to apologize to Park. His lack of courage made him to not testify the truth in Park's trial, and that led the young man to prison. Right after that, Park goes about his day with his new store manager, which is none other than Joe. The two of them take the bus back home. Park can't keep himself from hugging her while she is asleep in the seat next to him. The next day, Park goes to Chang's office to have yet another talk with him. Chang has made a new move. He has bought the building where Park's pub is located. On top of that, he wants Park to pay 5% more rent for the place. Park has rented the store legally, so he is confident that Chang can't raise his rent money. However, his contract ends in 6 months, and Chang can refuse to rent him the place again. If Park wants to object to that, Chang will sue him and take him on court. Right next, Park meets with Miss Kong and apologizes to her, because he has to liquefy some of the money he has placed on Jenga shares. His pub is very important to him. He needs to take care of the costs. Kong can't understand why Park is putting so much effort into this pub while he knows things might go sideways. but Park explains it is not about the restaurant. He cares about his people. He wants to take care of them because they are like his family. Meanwhile, Joe has a talk with Song. He thinks that he should probably quit. That would save Park some money, and also, it could serve as a pacifying move to make his father stop attacking Park. When the two of them go to the pub and tell Park about it, the boss gets mad. He wants them to be a family. Joe's behavior is just wrong. She should not prompt the other members of the team to quit in order to save a few pennies. Park has already come up with another solution. He buys an entire building in order to transfer his pub there. That is why he withdrew the money from the shares. The next day, Joe makes a move. She attends Chang's seminar. She even asks him a question about if he has any slogans he likes to repeat to himself. President Chang likes Joe's attitude and invites her to dinner. There, he tries to lure her to work for him, but Joe is loyal to Park. Gun also knows that his father wants Joe in the company, so he invites her to yet another dinner. He offers her a job position with lots of money, but Joe plays him and makes him talk. Gun says that laws are useful to keep the poor people in check, and reveals that he run over Park's dad with his car while another person took the blame. The thing is, Joe has captured all of that in a recording on her phone. Gun runs after her in order to take her phone. He even hits her. Joe starts screaming for help, and some people gather around. Gun starts throwing some money in the air in order to escape, and the trick seems to be working in the beginning. The people start gathering the money. Gun tries to walk away. However, Park appears on the spot and punches Gun. Then, Park and his friends keep Gun there until the police comes to pick him up. The next day, the former detective comes to Park's store because he has a new job now, and he is actually a supplier. Park has started working with him. The detective brings him some of the raw materials he uses in his store. While the two men talk, the detective's daughter sees a cat that she likes and runs after it. Everybody starts looking for the little girl, and to their good fortune, the girl has stumbled upon Miss Kong, who is giving her her phone so she can call her father. However, that won't be necessary because they now find her. While they start walking back to the pub, the detective realizes that somebody is following them. The detective runs after the guy. He catches him. The two of them start fighting. The man escapes, but the detective has stolen his camera in the process. Upon returning back to the pub, they understand that the man has been following Miss Kong for quite some time. Chang is informed about the incident, but he now makes a new move trying to hurt Park. He calls the supplier into his office. He has prepared a quite fruitful proposal for him. He will pay him lots of money if he becomes a supplier for Jenga. But the thing is, Chang wants exclusivity. The supplier needs to stop working with Park. The former detective and current supplier likes the amount of money, but he can't be bought. He has already made a mistake in the past. He gave a false statement in Park's trial. He can't do any more harm to him. Plus, he has a daughter, and he wants her to grow up having specific values. Meanwhile, the story about Gun starts going public. His father scolds him about his erratic behavior. Gun enters a company meeting. For some reason he is mad at everybody, although he is the one doing all kinds of reckless things. Kong gets up and approaches him, saying that she believes he is inadequate. He has caused nothing but harm to this company, but they are still covering for him because he is the son of the boss. Then, his father wants to see him again. He slaps him around for good. More and more details of the story go public, and now everybody knows that Gun is responsible for Park's father's death. Park and Joe set up a meeting with Lee and Miss Kong. Joe believes now is the time for Miss Kong to step up and challenge the president. The shareholders will lose faith in him. Miss Kong needs to use that in her own advantage. In the meantime, President Chang is having a meeting on his own with his son, his lawyer, and Sue. He believes that his son is doing him more harm than good. He soon orders him to leave the room. When he is alone with Sue, he tries to figure out what is the best course of action. Sue implies that something drastic has to happen because the public is boycotting Jenga. Chang asks her to be more clear on her suggestions, so Sue says that the president needs to fire his son and make that known to the public. The next morning, Chang calls his son in. He tells him to go to the police. He wants his son to pretend he is a good person and make himself available for the authorities in case they need something from him. When Gun walks out of his father's office, he stumbles upon Park. He is naturally mad at him. On the other hand, Park believes it is time for retribution, and Gun needs to be punished for what he did. The president of Jenga has now set up a press release. He has come up with the way to turn the tables on his own advantage. He pretends he is the victim of this situation and says his son acted on his own 10 years ago when he accidentally killed that man. He paid an employee to take the blame on his part. He adds that when he figured that out, Chang himself went straight to the police because he wanted justice to be served, even though Gun is his own son. Park is watching the press release with his team. They are very surprised. Not only Chang proves to be a resourceful man, but he also has no remorse at all. Gun also watches the interview, and he jumps out of the car that is taking him to the police. Clearly, his own father has set him up. Then, he comes face to face with his father, who just looks at him with cold eyes, even though he claimed he would help him. After those events, Chang calls Miss Kong in her office and basically brags about his win. He knew that Kong would expect him to fail, so she would grab the opportunity to step up. But he won once more. Soon, Gun is taken in trial. He is sentenced in 7 years prison time. When the room is empty, Park tells Chang he is not surprised. The old man sold his own son out. On the other hand, Chang wants to make it clear that Park has started a war against him, a war that he can't win. A few days later, Hyeon walks in the store all dolled up. She informs everybody that she is going to participate in a cooking television show. Actually, it is going to be something like a competition. She wants to confirm if everybody thinks that is a good idea. In the meantime, Soo visits Gun in prison. Gun wonders what the purpose of her visit is. He basically hopes that she came to see him, but that is far from the truth. Soo has come here as a messenger on behalf of his father, and she presents him with a folder. The company has prepared an offer for him. They want him to let go of his company shares. Back in the pub, Song expresses that his family situation is getting very toxic. The war between Park and his father is taking a toll on him. However, he has something else in mind. After he quits from the pub, he walks in on his father while he is having a meeting with Soo, and tells him that he wants to work for the company. Now that he knows for a fact that Gun is not going to be the one taking upon the company, he wants to be trained and be Chang's successor. His father hires him at once. Soo shows him to the office he will be working in. Then, it is time for the cooking competition to take place. Hyeon wins the first position, while the cook from Jenga wins the second position. Choi is very happy for Hyeon and jumps on him. While they are all happy, a dude walks into the pub and says he is interested in investing in it. He has a private talk with Park and Joe, and speaks with the best words about the pub. He likes that Park has started small, and he is steadily growing his business. In any case, he gives them his card and wants them to call him back if they are interested. Park discusses the matter with the team, but he also gains an extra motive that night. He is fined by the police because he has been placing some posters around. Tony has been looking for his father in order to prove he has a Korean parent so he can acquire Korean citizenship. The next day, Park meets with the investor. He wants to hear him say why he loves his pub that much. The investor likes Park and his pub alike because it is just a small store. Despite that fact, they are going against the biggest player in the food business, which is Jenga. Park accepts the investment, and then some more follow. Right after that, it is time for the cooking competition again. The results are the same once more. Hyeon wins first place while Jenga's guy wins second place. Despite, the TV competition will have one more final round soon, where the big winner will be declared. Song tells his father that he wants to take full responsibility for the results in the show, and Chang finds he did not do a good job. He can do whatever he wants with him. In the meantime, Park will have to face a new problem. He finds himself in an empty office, where he was supposed to meet some of his investors. The problem is they have all disappeared. Lee and Joe receive some messages on their phones by their investors, saying that they will not invest in their pub after all. Meanwhile, the supposed investor walks in Chang's office, and that makes the old man very happy. Obviously, the two of them have a past. Chang convinced the investor to pull back and not place his money in Park's pub. The whole neighborhood turns against Park. Specifically, they blame him and hold him responsible for the investors pulling back. Park had convinced all of them to accept the investments, but now the investments are gone. Park gets mad by their behavior, but he says he will refund the money they lost, even if he needs to get a loan to do so. Park and Soo discuss the current situation, but they are interrupted by Joe's phone call. She apologizes to Park for prompting him to accept the investments, but there is little they can do now. At the same time, an old lady from the neighborhood starts beating up a man who had taken a loan from her. The man is thinking to commit the unthinkable. The old lady gets mad because he can't die before repaying her. While beating him, the old lady slips and is injured. She is immediately transferred in the hospital, where she beats up the man some more. However, she puts some money in a bag for him and sends him off. Then, it is also revealed that this old lady is Tony's grandmother. She remembers that her son wanted to go to Africa, and she was mad at him for it. But her son did it anyway, and that is where he met Tony's mother. The next day, the old lady feels better and she visits Chang. As it seems, she is very rich herself. She has known Chang in the past. She tries to convince him to let Park alone and not cause him trouble anymore, because he is just a young man trying to make it. Despite her efforts, Chang is not convinced that easily, and he will continue trying to destroy Park. Park has a meeting with Joe and Lee. They realize their numbers are going down, so Joe sets up a meeting with Miss Khan and the old lady. All of them try to convince Park to accept an investment from the old lady, but Park does not want to do that. He believes the lady wants to help them because of Tony, or maybe even because she met them. That has nothing to do with business. Later, Park goes out for a drink with Sue. They can't help but discuss the difficult situation he is in. Upon returning to his pub, he receives a phone call from Joe, who is right next to a special guest. That person is none other than the old lady, who tells Park that she wants to invest in his pub because she believes in its potential. It is pure business. Her relation to Tony has nothing to do with it. Soon, it is time for the cooking competition finals. This will do the pub good if Hyen wins. However, an article is published in the last moment. The article revolves around Hyen's personal life. IIT reveals that she is a transgender. Hyen feels terrible about that revelation and leaves the competition. In Jangda's building, Sue approaches Song and asks him if he was the one to publish the article. Song admits he did it. Sue wonders how Park would feel if he knew his friend did such a horrible thing. On the other hand, Song has become ruthless and will do everything to win. Park sits down with Hyen, who is feeling really depressed. He tries to lift her spirits by saying she is the strongest person he has ever known. Song and Sue come to the set. The young man is very happy to learn that Park's pub will not compete. Park comes in and says he will take Hyen's place in order to compete for his pub since that is not against the rules. But then, the door opens and Hyen walks in confidently. She will take part in the competition like she intended. Not only that, but she also wins first place. She now owns the title of the best cook in Korea. After the show, Joe meets with Song. She slaps him. She knows what he did. On the other hand, Song says he did what he did for her because he wants to take over Jangda and earn her love. Although Jangda did not win, Chang is kind of happy with his son because he acted just like him. He did everything he could for the win without feeling any guilt. Then, he takes him in front of the board and says his son will be the one to take his place as the chairman of the company when he steps down. As for Park's pub, they now sign a paper. The old lady becomes an investor to their business. Later that night, they celebrate all of their successes by getting drunk. A few years later, Park has made it. He has bought an even bigger building. His business has grown. He and his team have a meeting with some Chinese businessmen, and we see how all of the team members have changed. They are more mature. They are sitting on top of a successful business. Meanwhile, Song has gotten older as well, but so has his father, who now has an incident and collapses. He is taken to the hospital. The doctors announce that he has pancreatic cancer. While Park is chilling with Lee, they also call Chang to have a talk, even though their conversation is not fruitful at all. Meanwhile, Gun is released from prison. He visits his father in the hospital. However, the old man is not very touched to see him. In the meantime, Park's team has been working hard. That leads to Joe passing out because she is burned out. That makes her miss an important conference in the Jangda group, which did not have the expected results for Park. Soon, Song learns that Joe is in the hospital and wants to visit her. There, he meets with Park and tells him that the real reason he left the pub is because he was in love with Joe. Everything he is doing, even trying to be the next president of Jangda, is because he wants to impress her. At the same time, Sue is having a talk with Chang. The old man knows that she always hated him for what happened to Park's father, but she put her emotions aside because she wanted to advance her career. That night, Park buys a gift for Joe, but when he goes to see her, he realizes she is missing. He and Song go on the lookout for her, but are soon ambushed by a convoy of cars. They step out of their car and see one of Park's old cellmates. Gun has paid the man and his guys to abduct Joe. One of the bad guys' cars moves against Song, but Park pushes him aside and takes the hit himself. Song calls Choi for help, but the bad guys beat him up. However, Choi listens to the noise and realizes something is wrong. Gun stares at an injured Park, just like he was staring at his father a few years back. Thankfully, Park is taken to the hospital in time, even though he is in a bad condition. The next day, Sue has yet another talk with the president of Jenga, but this time she brings a resignation letter with her. They have spent enough time together, and they need to part their ways. Then, Chang receives a phone call from Gun, who tells him that all he ever wanted was to have a father that is proud for him. He also blames everything that has happened on Chang, since he had made his son do terrible things in the past. Meanwhile, Joe manages to escape her bonds and free Song as well. They set a trap for Gun and hit him with a piece of wood. At the same time, Park feels way better. His only concern is to find out what has happened to Joe and Song. Park and Choi pay a visit to Chang, and they try to get him to cooperate. However, the old man believes that Park is to blame for everything that is happening. There is one thing that the old man has always wanted. He wants Park to kneel before him. Since this is a matter of life and death, he kneels before the old man and asks for his help. That really pleases the old man, who now writes down a location for Park. He has had access to some footage from a CCTV camera. Meanwhile, Joe is running away, but the bad guys are after her. However, Park and Choi find her, and they drive their car straight to the bad guys. Choi starts fighting with some of them, while Park is trying to take Joe away. The problem is he is injured, and Gun catches up with them. While Joe runs away, Park and Gun start fighting each other. Park is able to defeat Gun once more, but that is not his only victory. The next day, the police conducts an investigation, and all the guilty people for Park's father's death will be taken in trial. Gun is taken directly back in jail. Lee approaches him with a new proposition for his shares. He wants to buy all of them, but this time he wants to buy them for Park. Chang now starts noticing that the world around him is being destroyed. The old lady gives him a call and asks him to act wisely for once in his life by making amends with his past. Chang visits Park's pub to have a meal, but also apologizes for everything he has done. He kneels before Park as he realizes that hate has consumed his whole life. From there, every piece falls into place, and the good guys can now keep on living their lives in peace.